Hey everybody, this is Way to Fail, and today we're going to be talking about Hearthstone again, specifically looking at a deck that I've been having a lot of fun with recently, which is a Druid Taunt deck, specifically one that's modified slightly off of the one that was built by StrifeCro, made the Legendary in Season 4. And this is not a cheap deck. I've done some budget videos in the past. This is the opposite of budget. And if you're stressing about how to get dust, one bit of advice I can give you is to maybe pick a class or two and then dust the rest from everything else. You can always get the cards later, but try and build up a good collection that you have. But this one has a lot of cards to try and work towards, but it's a deck that works pretty well together for the most part. It doesn't have great matchups across the board, but it is your typical ramp druid focusing on putting as many taunt creatures as possible. So I'm going to talk about some of the deck choices, and then we're going to take it into the wild. So let's start with the two key cards here, the ones that you always want to mulligan for, which is Innervate and Wild Growth. Wild Growth has been seeing a lot more play in Druid recently, even in token decks, because it just lets you get your big things out faster. And Innervate plays very nicely with this. You got to think about your turns ahead, though. A lot of Druids are starting to play a one-off Mark of the Wild. It's really good for trading up or possibly comboing with Big Game Hunter. So you do have some combos there. Big Game Hunters in the deck because... honestly, Druid's only hard removals Naturalize, and I find Naturalize gives your opponent too much of an advantage. This deck only runs one combo. I really like running two combos, typically Force of Nature and Savage Roar, which is a 14-point, if you have nothing on the board, damage combo for burst. But the reason that this runs one is that it's nice to have, but that's only part of a win condition for this deck. Your goal is to overwhelm the board with things like Ancients of War, Ancients of Lore, Sunwalkers, which are seeing more and more play lately, Druids of the Claw, Shield Masters, or Tazdingos, whatever you want to call them. Just big things that will block progress. So you want to have your taunting creatures as much as possible, otherwise you have your Keepers of the Grove, Swipe, Harvest Golem, those are typical, 2 Wraths, pretty typical, 2 Ancients of Lore. If you want to play Druid, that's part of the Druid's expensive. Ancients of Lore are so important in pretty much any Druid deck. But there are some techie choices, things that are a little bit different with this deck you might see. The Black Knight is one of them. It's a card I got recently. Very important in the mirror match because you see a lot of taunts in Druid, but pretty good in a lot of matchups just because it takes out just taunted creatures, and it's a really big, important trade if you can get it. You don't want to play as a 6 mana 4/5, but if you have to, you have to. I mean, it's still a body out there, but that can be such a huge swing, especially because you see a lot of Druids, and the Black Knight's really good in Druid matchups. Now, the StrifeCro deck, and I've looked at another deck that was created by Dog, who is also #1 on the Legendary rank at some point during this season here. Dog runs some different cards. I tend to prefer the StrifeCro variant of this, which runs 1 Azure Drake and 1 Earthen Ring Farseer, because this heal can be pretty important whether it's healing yourself or healing one of your taunts. And then getting 1 extra card draw along with the Ancients of Lore is pretty good as well. Dog runs a Faceless Manipulator, and I can see the value of a Faceless very well, especially with your Ancients of War and your Sunwalkers, but I find it so often to be a card that I just can't use. So I'd rather have the Drake, I'd rather have the Farseer. And when I say can't use, I just mean usually when I put out a creature, it has to stay on the board for 1 turn for me to do something with it. But that's why I don't have the Faceless in there. It's very viable to have a Faceless in there, but once again, a Faceless is an epic. This deck has a lot of expensive things. Now, there's a Ragnaros at the bottom of this, and StrifeCro's deck, if you're familiar with it, has a Cenarius, and there's 2 reasons that I have Ragnaros in here. One is that I don't actually have Cenarius, because my deck collection is not complete, but more importantly is that if I had to choose between Ragnaros and Cenarius, I would choose Ragnaros for this deck. Ragnaros helps a lot more in the Miracle matchup. It is something that does an effect on the board immediately, even on a clear board, dealing 8 damage. And Cenarius is kind of a card that, yes, I have seen it win a few games here or there, but it's more of a win more card than Ragnaros, which is something that can actually win you the game. Or if it is a big game target, it is a lot of different kinds of targets that it is polymorph if people still run it. Hex is probably the one you got to look out for. But I prefer it over Cenarius because Cenarius does drop 2 taunts for you. Let me just show you Cenarius in case you can't open up the client yourself to see. It's either buffing your creatures that are already out or 2 trains with 2 taunts. Usually, if you can get benefit of that, you're already ahead because you have board control. And this is, if anything, a board control deck where you got to learn to ramp up the pace. But that's enough talking about the deck. Let's actually go and see it in action. And of course, I had a pretty good win streak before, so now that we're recording live, that means that we're going to have loss, loss, loss. But I do want to show how this deck works in a few matchups, because it is one that I am enjoying. I mean, there's just something satisfying about your opponent thinks, haha, I took out your big taunt, and you just throw out more big taunts. Eventually, most classes can't really deal with it very well. But what I've been seeing on ladder, especially around the ranks that I'm at, you see a lot of hand lock, which is not a great matchup for this. You do see a ton of druids, some miracle, and this is probably a miracle rogue here, so I'm curious to see how this deck does. Right now, we really want a wild growth. If you don't get wild growth or innovate, you're going to be in trouble. So I'm actually going to send everything back. As tempted as I am to keep the swipe, in case I can take out an auctioneer, I'm not going to. Now, if this is aggro rogue, I'm going to be in some trouble. But fortunately, I got the wild growth, so that's good. I could coin wild growth into a harvest golem, and that might not be a terrible play. But against miracle, usually they'll have some cards to deal with it, especially an SI agent. But I do get an innervate too, so that's pretty nice. It may be better for me to wild growth and then coin out the shield master and then innervate out the Azure Drake. So we'll save that for maybe next turn. Still, good cards to have. You want to have one of these at the start, if at all possible. Plus, it's one of the first gold cards you get, so that's pretty nice. So this is Miracle. Well, okay, there's not necessarily a Miracle. It could be a Cancer Rogue. But we'll see if if he plays a Cold Light and tries to overload my hand, we'll know pretty quickly, but yeah, we'll get this next time. Actually, don't need to coin out anything. I can actually coin Innervate an Ancient of Lore, but I'd rather know what I'm getting into next turn with this. So getting the taunt's good. I almost kind of want it to be an aggro rogue, but now it's going to be Miracle. So just dagger up and go. You'll sometimes see the Shiv, especially if they don't get a good draw here. Okay, so Sunwalker is really nice. I could go ahead and draw at that tap, but it's probably better for me to just play on curve. Save the Innervates here. I got a 5, 6, 7 play, so I don't need to Innervate yet. That can be a decent late game, or I can go ahead and draw 2 cards and get the lore out. So this is going to force him to make some plays, which is fine. And is he going to actually eviscerate this or something? SI. Okay. Pretty good. That means I'm going to bring out an Ancient of Lore here. Try and deal with that. Black Knight is a dead card in this matchup. And the reason is that I want to be able to use the Innervate now while I can. And then I can deal with some of this other stuff later. But I do want the cards. So let's go ahead and get the lore out. Cards are more important to me in the Miracle matchup. There's a Rag. Rag is the card that I really, really want. Rag, Innervate. Jesus Christ. Okay, this is going to be a good next turn. Assuming he doesn't do anything very exciting. Alright. So is he going to conceal? He's going to prep and sap. You want to try and take this out if you can. So prep, conceal. Alright, so I got some chance for Ragnaros to hit. Alright, so we are playing Rag right now because that's my best shot at getting this or putting pressure on the board. And this is why Ragnaros is specifically, at least, and that's kind of the thing that I took from Dog's deck into here, is that this is for the Rogue matchup. Please hit the Auctioneer, that'd be amazing. Face I can deal with. Face is okay. Face is okay. He's got to deal with a lot of big shit on the board now. So is he going to sap? There we go. I mean, that's what happens sometimes. So is he actually going to take this out as well? He's going to draw into so much of his deck right now. So he can probably hit this and eviscerate. I mean, I still have the coin. That's one of the real benefits of this. So is he going to double conceal here? This is pretty good for me right here. Okay, Mark of the Wild as well. Still feel like Ragnaros is the right play here, because that'll put so much pressure on him. I don't care if this hits face or if this hits the Auctioneer at this point. Alright. Gonna have to force him to do something, whether it's using premium removal on this. Now, if he did draw enough of the right cards, he could kill me right here. But we'll see here. Second sap, backstab. Okay, so he's just gonna draw even more of his deck. Alright, so... Alright. So he's gonna sap it anyway, not bad. Alright, so he's just trying to do some damage to me now. And now it's the time where I get a little cute here, because I do want to take out that Auctioneer. And I do have a lot of taunts. Now, I could play on curve and everything, but I feel like it may be better for me to mark the Wild Druid of the Claw charge form into the Auctioneer, because he hasn't gotten a ton of value out of this, and it still lets me have up a taunt. So,
where shall I strike?
lets me take out something immediately. Not terrible. Alright. For a moment I thought I had Wind Fury on it, but that would be me playing Arena last night, so... 18 health isn't great. He can still kill me if he Shadow Step Leroy's and does some other shenanigans, but... Let's hear. One spell power can be good if he has Fan of Knives. That'll take that out pretty well. Eviscerate. Is that going to be to the face? It can't be to the face. And Conceal. Alright, so now we're in a little bit of a danger zone. And part of the catch is that I can play the Ancient of War. He's already sapped twice. So he's going to have to break through that pretty well. If I play the Sunwalker and then this, he's going to... At least I'll be able to put some pressure on the board. I still have a Rag in my pocket. That's not just somebody being happy to see me. So let's put up this. There we go. More board control. Using the Conceal for an Azure Drake is not ideal, but I just want to stop incoming damage as much as possible. If I'm hoping he pops this with a dagger, but chances are, okay, two Drakes, pretty good. And it's entirely possible that I just misplayed my situation, which is okay. Let's see. And do we have lethal? No, we don't, but we're close. Question is, do I put up another taunt or do I just YOLO Rag? I think the safer play is to put up the second taunt here, because he has a lot of things that can attack. As much as I want to Rag, there's only a scant chance that he actually gets the hit. So it's probably better that I do put out the Ancient of War. Let's taunt it as well. Put this out, and do I go for board control here? No, I'm going for face. Because you've got to put pressure on Miracle Rogues. They will draw their deck eventually, even though I did pretty good countering those Auctioneers. If he can break through these two taunts without sap, you know what, more power to him at this rate. Because he's going to have to do something. I mean, he obviously didn't want to Shadow Step his Farseer. So that counts for something. Once again, Rag doing a good job here. Is this going to be a Blade Flurry? Looks like it. Because there's no way in hell he's attacking with anything else here. So, once again, rogues have ways to survive all of this stuff. And I have his health. This is what you want a Miracle Rogue to be at. His health is so low.
I wonder.
But we'll see. We'll see. So there's always things that I can do better in these matchups here, but being able to Wild Growth and then innervate out Ragnaros and then coin out Ragnaros. That's one of the most valuable things from watching Dog stream. I haven't seen too much of StrifeCro stream with this deck, but at least with Dog, he taught me kind of the value of saving the coin instead of just trying to rush out stuff quickly. Even though against Miracle, you do want to get that out quickly. So here we go. Is he actually got a board clear? Looks like he does. Okay. He's going to have to sacrifice his entire board for it, but he's got a board clear. Blade Flurry. And does he have Fan of Knives? No, that's game. Whew! What have so instead of the yellow rag, putting out the second taunt there seemed to be the right move. At least it won me the game because I didn't want to go for a. I'm not a Maz, so I can't just say 25% is 100%. But yeah, Rag, really good for the Miracle matchup, that's why it's there. If it was Scenarios, it just would have been two relatively easy to deal with taunts, or I didn't have really anything to... I had one creature out there I could have put 2/2 on, so... The two taunts wouldn't have really done me a lot in that game, but 8 damage to the face, and then being able to put that constant threat out to free up free up everything else was a big deal. So let's play another game. So let's hear Miracle, that was good. Kind of hoping for a different matchup. I'd love to show you all Mirror and kind of what that looks like. Because Mirror does boil down a lot to who gets the Wild Growth, who gets the Innervates and all that, but we'll see. Oh no, it's a Golden Warlock. Which the immortal question is it handlock? I got a wild growth in my opener, which is great. Okay, Big Game Hunter is fantastic if this is handlock. But we always look to see how many cards they mulligan. And he's looking to see how many cards I mulligan. He mulligan 1. So it's probably Zoo. But I'm going to keep the Big Game Hunter anyway because it's just too good against handlock. It's not. So Swipe Wrath, wow, this is like the multi-toolbox for either matchup right here. So it is going to be a turn 2 wall growth. It's Zoo. Okay, so... Oh my god, 2 swipes. If I can't bring this game home, it's going to be entirely because I... Well, there's going to be a lot of reasons why I wouldn't necessarily be able to bring the game home, but one of them would be not being able to heal from an Ancient of Lore, which I do have, so that's good. Question now is, do I Wrath the Taunt or do I Wrath the Direwolf? Probably better to get... because you can use the Wrath to cycle sometimes. Question is, if I wild growth, what am I wild growthing into? I'm wild growthing into a swipe next turn, which I could... that's not awful, but I can coin swipe next turn too, so... I want to get more value out of the swipes if I can. And I can afford to take a little bit of damage because I have the 2 swipes. So we'll wild growth. It's a calculated risk. I'm also pretty bad at Hearthstone, so that's why I'm rank 9. But I've noticed lately a lot more people are interested in just using the original card backs than any of the fancy ones. And probably people, especially like a Yukiyamu here, probably do have legendary ranking of some sort. And see, this is an interesting choice for me now. Alright, so this is definitely a swipe turn. Question is, who gets swiped? It looks like it's going to be the Knife Juggler. Okay, Innervate Swipe is pretty nice. Because that'll let me... I don't care as much about the taunt right now, but that'll let me go ahead and cycle for a card as well. So that's worthwhile. So we'll swipe right here. I always choose the card on the right because it doesn't necessarily tell the opponent that I'm getting it from a card that I've been holding on to for a while. This card's more dangerous because it buffs other cards. So we're just going to Innervate, Wrath, draw. Now I have one more swipe. A few turns I got card draw. Or actually, taunt next turn. That's why we cycle. That's good. So I do have another swipe on board that'll be pretty good value. It's just a matter of what is he going to drop down. Harvest Golem, which is not a great swipe target. Argent Squire, not a great swipe target. So this is a good Druid of the Claw play. It's a good turn for that. And a Wrath on top of that. So I can Wrath swipe next turn or coin Ancient of Lore. My health is not really an issue right now. Bear form against Zoo is as good as Charge can be. I've seen some Zoo decks, at least online, play the Black Knight lately, and if this is... I do have the coin, so I don't have to worry about the Black Knight until next turn. Is that an Earthen Ring Farseer? He's targeting something with it, so... Maybe that is the Black Knight, but you can't play it yet. We'll try and get as much value out of this bear as we can. It's gonna be hilarious if it's the Black Knight. If it's the Black Knight, it's like you're just better at this game than I am. Alright. Soulfire. Oh, that sucks for him. Two Soulfires out of the way. I do have a second swipe. Would love to spell power with it, but that's not going to be the case today. So what's my biggest threat right now? Because I do have a heal coming up. I can get okay value out of this. I might as well at least kill 2 things. Let's go ahead and... No, so he's seen that I've used all my Wraths. He's seen that I've used all my swipes. But I can heal or draw next turn. So let's take out the thing that does the most damage. Alright. Not the best swipe ever, but... what can you do? I got a 5/5 and I got a deck full of taunts.
To Northrend!
That's not good. Okay, that means I'm definitely healing this turn. Unless I draw something decent there. Wild Growth is decent, but I'm not ramping to anything right now, so we gotta heal. That's why we have this card here. This may be a loss for me just because I mismanaged my swipes, but that's Zoo with Charge. That's how it goes sometimes. I mean, I see so many people rage about zoo decks so much. Yeah, it's always the Doom Guard, but when they can draw this much of their deck, yeah, I am completely dead at this point. I didn't use the swipes as well as I could have. I have a coin. A coin doesn't get me a lot though. He's got lethal. Let's see here. If I do 1 damage here, and if I heal myself for 3, I could survive just a touch longer. He doesn't have any more Soulfires. He does have 1 more Doom Guard. So if I can do this play...
My eyes are open.
Alright. That's what I get for not taking out the taunt before.
For the wild.
Okay, so let's hear. That's 7 damage that he's going to be able to do to me, but really he's left me no choice.
I must safeguard the land.
Alright. What can you do? If he beats me, he beats me. If he draws a Hellfire, he wins. If he draws a lot of things, he wins. There we go. Well played. Getting 2 Doom Guards on the top of your deck, that's... Some people say, rage, 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 wham, 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 Zoo sucks. It's like, you know what? That's actually the first loss I've had against Zoo with this deck. And it's probably because I could have managed my swipes better. But even then, it's really hard to come back from 2 early Doom Guards. So, we'll play one more time. I got time for one more. No reason to get bent out of shape there. In a deck full of taunts, I drew a grand total of 1. So, I mean, I got the swipes that I wanted. If I had gotten rid of the big game hunter, maybe I would have picked it up again anyway, but that's part of the danger of playing Warlock, is that you don't know what they're running. So there's not a lot you can do. No reason to get upset. It's not like you run a deck expecting to win 70, 80, 90% of the time. That's what a kind of 50-50 looks like. Alright, so this is another, very likely another Miracle Rogue. We want early pressure. So we are going to get rid of all these because we want to ramp up. Harvest Golem's okay for early pressure, but I really want a Wild Growth and I didn't get it. Alright, so we're going to have to make this work. If I don't get an Innervate or Wild Growth, we'll see kind of how this goes. Hey, oop, wrong button. Innervates. That's good. Now I have to think about what we want to Innervate coin. So if he daggers up here, it's very likely... Well, he didn't play anything first turn, so it's very likely not. Cancer or Aggro Rogue. I got a turn 3 play next turn, so let's go ahead and... We'll save the Innervate for that. We'll just go ahead and... So I can turn 5 Rag, and turn 5 Rag is a really good counter to turn 5 Auctioneer. You much prefer to get the Wild Growths, but... Yeah, it's funny, I'm seeing more decks running Sinister Strike, so this may just be a totally direct damage focused deck, which if that's the case, at least I have the Ancient Allure in my pockets a turn or 2 after the Rag here, so... There's a Wild Growth. We need pressure. Maybe able to get turn 6 Wild Growth. Maybe. Depends. May not need to ramp it to anything because I have the coin. And I guess I know with my current hand I could have possibly gone for... So does he really have nothing to play right now? Surely he's got something to drop, unless he's trying to get an SI agent. Alright, Mark of the Wild, pretty good. Do I mark this is the question. Probably not. Let's save the Mark of the Wild for something else. So, 1 taunt good. See if he saps it. If he saps it... I wanted to play Auctioneer this turn. Auctioneer Conceal is what I want to see right now. That's okay. I can live with that. Alright, so the question is, how greedy do I want to get? I have a big game hunter, which is pretty good. You know what? I got the Rag in here for a reason, so might as well. You know how it goes. Hi guys, I'm Ragnaros. I'm great at parties. Okay, almost want to hit the Farseer instead, but face is decent. Unfortunately, because the Farseer is there, there's a lot of ways that he can have removal to take this out. I wouldn't care if he sapped it, though. Not too much. But at least I have some plays now where I don't necessarily need the mana crystal, so Fan of Knives. He's fishing, that's good. There's not as many plays you can make for 3 mana. Cold Blood's one of them, though. Alright, well I still got 7 damage out. And if he's going for face time, that's not ideal for him. So big game's probably not going to do me a ton of good here, but once again, the 8 direct damage, still pretty nice. Second Innervate is also fantastical. That's 11 mana. I don't have anything to ramp to again, so I don't really need the Wild Growth at this point, so we'll... I could Innervate Hero Power, but that feels like such a waste. Of course, I could Innervate Wild Growth, but at this point this may be better for the card draw. I feel like there's better things that I can Innervate. So let's see. 4/4 and 3/5, multiple taunts. Maybe better to card draw instead of heal here because I have 2 taunts up. He's not going to be able to backstab it because it's damaged. I guess a swipe would be good here.
I wonder.
Okay, shit. So he's not going for face now. That's good for me. And this is going to be a Blade Flurry. That's okay. You just got to prepare for your cards to be removed in this match. I mean, the good thing is that he only has 2 cards right now, and he's going to take 2 face damage. Alright, so Keeper of the Grove is good. I'm just going to save this for card draw at this point. He has 18, he has 2 here. Do I card draw or heal? Probably. It's a tough call because... Whew. Well, I'm definitely playing him. If he Leroy Shadow Steps me, he can kill me. But he has not been through a ton of his deck. If he Van Cleef Cold Bloods or something, I can big game Hunter. First gonna draw 2. I'll draw into a taunt or a swipe or something. There we go. Swipe, Savage Roar. That makes for a really nice next turn. Alright. This is what we're doing. I live with it. I die with it. You can tell me in the comments what I did wrong.
My eyes
Alright.
are open.
So there's 1 heal. 1 to the face. Is that all? I really hope that's all he's got. Alright, good. So how do I want to do this? Do I have lethal right now is my first question. Okay, so this is 4, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, Innervate 14. I have lethal. Sweet. So let's see, that's 9 and 10. Well played. This is why early pressure is good. This is why Rag's really nice against their... Make sure I actually target the right thing. Rag's really nice against Miracle, although it's pretty... It's not a huge thing to beat Miracle if they don't actually draw into their SI agents, or they don't actually draw into Auctioneer. So that makes me question whether that was a Miracle or something else that wasn't necessarily working out for him. But still... 2 Rogue wins. Rogue was one of the matchups I was struggling with before with other decks that this deck's pretty stable against. So I think 3 games is pretty solid to show you this deck. Let's look at it one more time. You got to see a taunt wall. You got to see me get eaten by Zoo, and you got to see me take out 2 Rogues. But once again, here's the deck list. Rag and the Black Knight are legendaries. You can throw Karn in there as well. You can throw Sylvanas. You can throw Cenarius. If you have all the Destined legendaries in the world. Budget replacements, Ragnaros is really just kind of a tech card. If you're looking for kind of a standard ramp druid here, you can always kind of take out the legendaries. You can throw in Argent Commanders. That's a thing you can do. But the deck will be weaker for it. It'll be more... And really, there are some ramp decks out there where the biggest card that they have is Ancient of Lore, and they just try and be more of a charge druid. But that's another deck for another time, but that is one that if you're looking for a more cost-effective structure, that's what you can do. But cost-effective is something that needs to have a big fat asterisk next to it in Druid, because Ancient of Lore is a very important card, Force of Nature is a very important card, and those are epics. And in some decks, you're going to want to run pretty much 1,600 dust worth of those. But that's it for now. This is Way to Fail with another deck. This is a Taunt Druid deck, kind of a mix of what StrifeCro and Dog have put out for this season. Will it be viable when, whatchamacallit, Curse of Naxxramas comes out? I think it will be. I mean, there could even be some other cards that make it a little bit stronger. So this may change a little bit, but the idea is solid. I mean, Black Knight sucks, but you have enough taunts to kind of eat it and keep going. That's it for now. Hope you liked it. Feel free to comment in the comments about anything that I did, especially on that Zoo matchup, because it's one of those things that sometimes you look at and you wonder, could have I won that? And I did have 2 swipes, so I probably could have. But that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.